Hey guys, what's going on? Steve Araujo here with the Bass Hang, and I'm making this video for my friends at Form Factor and for the Bass Hang also. But I've been using the Form Factor gear for a couple of years now, especially their cabinets, and I finally got my BI1000 head a few months ago. And I've been gigging it, I've been using it here at the Bass Hang Studios for recording, and I have been actually playing it out on gigs more and more, and I'm really getting the feel of it. It is an uber powerful Class D head. It weighs around 10 pounds, so it's heavier than the normal, small, light Class D amps. And I don't mind the 10-pound weight. It actually is nice to be able to move knobs and push buttons without having to hold the head because it's so light. So I want to explain a couple of things, what I'm doing here. This is kind of an impromptu video. I'm not too overly concerned with the noise floor. I'm using my shotgun mic on my camera because I want to show you guys kind of how quiet the amp is. It's unmuted now, and it is super quiet. And I'm actually pretty loud. It is unmuted. And there it's muted again. But I want to show you guys kind of how quiet it is when it is up at volume. Obviously I'm not playing, nothing's plugged in, but it's a quiet amp. So I want to tell you my signal path that I'm using for this recording. Using the Technica AT4047. I have it padded. I've got the negative 10 dB pad on. I'm going into my Ventura Mic Preamp with fan and power on. I'm going into the Apogee Duet and straight into Logic. So all the playing examples you hear will be coming through this microphone right here. And it's going to be about 12 inches from the 1B12 ceramic form factor cabinet. And I have the horn about a quarter of the way up. So that's where I am. And let's do some playing. First off, I'm going to play an active 4-string. This is a Colibri jazz bass. It's a 4-string bass, and it's flat. It's set flat with the EQ. Both pickups on. So let's check it out. It's muted now, so let's unmute. All right, guys. So everything is set flat. I have the limiter at about 10 o'clock. So let's play something. I may combine just the mic'd cabinet and the actual shotgun mic that I have there, just so you can hear what it sounds like in a room. If it's not overdriving, I may be overdriving the shotgun mic. I have discovered that when I'm taking it out and playing it, so I've played the head using the Form Factor 2B10 ceramic 210 cabinet. I've used it with the 1B12 ceramic cabinet. I've also used it with one GS112, that's an Aguilar ceramic 112 cabinet, and I've used it with two GS112s paired together. The amp sounds killer with everything. Now, let me tell you that this is rated at 1,000 watts into 4 ohms. I've had some pretty big high-powered heads in the past that weigh about 70, 80, 90 pounds, and you probably can guess which amps those are. I love them, would still have them, but the weight is just, it's just too much. After you've carried it for about 1.5 years or 2 years, gigs, upstairs, it just becomes very, it just becomes kind of a pain, and your back starts hating you. So it starts becoming a little bit of a liability in terms of your back, basically. So I got rid of those, and I've had some Class D amps that are great. They are awesome. They're still awesome, except I don't have that same feeling of that power behind the notes. Basically, when I play a note, I really feel that punch behind it. I never feel like I'm running out of gas or I'm hitting the ceiling. And in terms of where I am volume-wise, my master is at about 9 and my gain is at about 10. And all my EQ settings are flat. So, and I've actually done gigs with that setting with my 2B10, my 210 ceramic form factor cabinet at an outside gig, and I had players that were in the audience, bass players, 2 friends of mine, that said that they could not only hear the bass, but they could feel it. And that's my main thing that I would like you to take away, is that with this head, you not only hear the notes, but you feel that power behind it. It's very nice. Again, those other Class D amps are great. They work. They're awesome. They sound great. They're super lightweight. I still use them. I still have a couple of them. But with this head, with the Bi1000, you literally feel that power behind the notes. It's very, very nice. The other thing I have found, that it is a very aggressive sounding amp. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say, that when I'm setting it flat, it is just super, super punchy. A lot of the times, what I will do, and a good starting point for me, may change with everybody else, with anybody else, and that's fine. I take the mid-range, I go to 500 hertz, or 0.5, that's what it says, 0.5, so 500 hertz, and I cut. So let me just play. This is flat. We'll just do a little Stevie Wonder. Now let me cut 500 and do that same thing. So there's the cut, 500, and then here is flat. So I always like to get a piece of gear, play with it, mess with it, whatever it is, and then since I am playing so much, I'm out gigging, I'm doing all kinds of stuff outside of my studio where I really need to have a starting point. And my starting point for this amp is I cut 500, and there it is. There's my starting point. And that just seems to be a very friendly place for me to begin to start messing with tone if I need to. And let me tell you, 90% of the time, I leave it right there. I think there was one instance where I did start here, but then I ended up flat. And that's totally fine. But at least I had that nice starting point to begin with. And that was with, I believe, a 5-string bass. So I'm going to play a couple of different things here. Let me check if we're still recording. Yep, we're still recording. All right. So let's just do a little playing. So here's 500 cut. There's 1000. So I just went through a few different things. Now let me go back to our 500 cut, and I'm going to boost the bass, and I'll boost the treble. Now my volume is up, and it sounds super, super quiet. I mean, I can hear my strings a little bit, but honestly, the noise floor is super low, which is awesome. So now here is, yeah, so cut 500, my bass is boosted, and my treble is boosted a little bit. So I'm kind of digging in there, kind of. that was with the bass and the treble boosted a little bit. So what else can I say about this head? It just feels like it just has the power behind it, and everybody that's played it, they plug in, even if it is here indoors in the little bass hang studio, there's something about having that feeling of that power behind you. I always call it absolute power because I always feel like I'm not running out, so no matter what I play, I'll still have that. Even at low volumes, which is really nice, it still packs that punch. And I really like the way that this 112 ceramic sounds, especially for demoing gear. I think it's really a neutral and flat sounding cabinet. It sounds really good in this room. So I'm just trying to think. The other really rad thing about this, I love the direct amp input, the amp in. So basically, if you have a preamp, if you have a DI, a preamp pedal, I mean, I could take my Ventura, I could take my A-Designs KGB, you could take whatever, an Eden pedal preamp, and go right in there, and that bypasses the EQ section, and basically you're just using the power amp, which is, again, it's just a killer power amp. It's big, it's huge, it has power. It is nice to have that big, giant power punch, and to be able to bypass the EQ section, the preamp of the BI1000 and use just its power is really nice. I've used it with the KGB because that has a 1/4 inch out that is a line out, and that goes right into there, and it just sounds amazing. Sounds killer. So that's a great thing. I have not used the effects loop yet. I don't use a lot of effects, but I'm sure one of these days I will. I definitely, so by the way, this is an active bass, takes a battery, so I'm in the active input, and I'm going to play a passive bass next, and we'll hear what that sounds like. But again, it's just great. And here we're muting and unplugging, and I'm changing basses. I'll be back. All right, guys, so I'm going to plug in. Oh, let me do one thing. So this is a Wilkins WRTPJ 5. And I haven't changed any settings. I haven't changed any settings on my recording, input, my Apogee, nothing. I'm basically going to see what it sounds like where I went from the active input to the passive input. So let's see. So that low B just sounds beefy. And the nice thing about this low B, what I mean by low B is anything below an E. E flat, D, D flat, or C. That lowness, I don't get that wattage suck that sometimes you get with other amps when you're playing those low notes. This amp still just keeps that integrity. Excuse me, I need some water. It keeps that integrity of that low. It's just great, big, fat, beefy. And I will say this also, that I am cut, that was with the 500 cut. So that's what I mean by that. That's where I start with this amp, because it is just a punchy amp as is. I feel like going to that 500 hertz and cutting it tames it so that I have a good starting point. Then if I need to, I can go to the next setting. Or to the straight up. And then fat and punchy. It's ridiculous. It's just great. So let me show you a little bit of the limiter too. So this is going to bump up our gain a little bit, but here's limiter off. Here's about quarter. Here's half. Here's about 3/4. All the way up. So a lot of the times with these amps, these limiters feel like you're getting a little choked. I don't feel that with this amp. I feel that the limiter is very friendly and very musical. I leave it at around 10 o'clock. So, and I have no problems. I haven't had any issues with dynamics. If I want to play, you know. So I don't feel it choking or doing anything with my playing, which is great because I definitely don't like that, especially, you know, going in ears quite a bit of the times and somebody, front of house guy, just squashes your sound and you have no dynamics. That drives me crazy. This does not do that. So the amp, as you can hear, is super friendly with active, with passive, with 5-string, with 4-string, slap, chords, whatever. I'm just a fan, and I like that I found that setting at 500 and I cut it a little bit because I like to kind of have a starting point and then a going off point or a jumping off point. I don't know, something like that. So all in all, man, I'm really, really happy with it. And again, I on purpose recorded with a room mic. That's what I'm recording with because I wanted you to hear that noise level, that noise floor. It's low, man, and I'm up loud, and I have my volume, my tones, and everything up. So obviously, if I start doing that, you'll hear it, but it's very quiet. It's a super quiet amp. The DI is great on this. I have used it on gigs where I take the direct out. It's super quiet. For live playing, it's great. The mutes everything. I mean, it's an incredibly well thought out amplifier. And let's do a little boosting of the mids. How's that? So here is the very left setting, 500. And then we'll go back to that, to my home bass. So even at the extreme, when I'm boosting those mids, it's still super, super musical. And I really, really think that a lot of that has to do with the amplifier having that power behind it, and that true power. So it's punchy in all settings, at all volumes. You know, I'm very happy with it. The BI1000, to me, you feel that punch behind the notes. It's like absolute power. It reminds me of those big heads, and I love those heads, and I miss having them, but I don't miss the weight. So this is the solution. And again, those other amps, those other Class D amps are great. Like I said, I use them. This one is just a little bit, it's just special. It really, really has a lot of punch behind it. And the DI is great. They've thought it through. Their cabinets are killer. So I'm a huge fan. I really, really like it. And I hope you guys dug it too. So...